Hello, people of the world. You probably don't know me. I am the tallest person in Israel. These are difficult times for my people, as we find ourselves in yet another round of war. Our days are filled with death, destruction, and horror on both sides. As always, we pay close attention to the international reaction to our actions, and as always, reactions are quite critical. Dua Lipa, for example, posted on Instagram calling to free Sheikh Jarrah. Model Gigi Hadid posted a story saying you will not erase Palestine. The Weeknd reposted stories accusing Israel of ethnic cleansing. DJ Khaled said he, quote, expects oral sex but won't return the favor, in an interview from 2014, which is completely unrelated, yet always fun to remember. But make no mistakes, the pro-Israeli list of celebrities is nothing if not shiny. 49-year-old Argentinian actor Facundo Arena has shown support of his Israeli friend in a private conversation later made public on her Instagram account. So, strong figures on both sides. But in this fight over public opinion, the Israeli side has taken a serious blow this week.
For decades, the backbone of America's policy in the Middle East has been that America is an unwavering friend to Israel, which is a great thing to try and be, but at the end of the day, I would hope that a real friend would tell me when I'm being an asshole, and definitely when I'm committing a fucking war crime.
And I would hope to someday have just a fraction of a white man's confidence when I'm talking about things that happen thousands of miles from where I live. Shit, I don't even have that much certainty about things that happen in my own home. I found my dog eating off the table one day and I was like, I don't think you should do that. And I don't want to sound defensive. Everyone has a right to criticize Israel. It's okay. I mean, the Holocaust did just happen, but okay, if you have to. That's how I make my living. Everyone has a right to consider the facts and the context. Some might even conclude that we're the bad guys. I mean, someone's gotta be it, right? But I also believe that simplifying a complex matter doesn't do justice to either side. I think it's a luxury for bystanders to make cutting statements on a century-long conflict that people live through every day. And it is my humble opinion that the opening monologue from this week's episode of Last Week Tonight, the incredibly popular HBO show I never stole format from, is doing just that.
Since Monday, over 80 Palestinians have been killed and 7 Israelis in this tit-for-tat war.
Okay, there is a lot to unpack there, from the horror of the situation, which has escalated significantly since then, to the use of the phrase tit-for-tat war in a conflict where you just pointed out one side has suffered over 10 times the casualties. Something which speaks to both the severe power imbalance at play here and how that often gets obscured by how we choose to talk about it.
Okay, first of all, you said tit. Secondly, I don't think that anyone denies that there is in fact an imbalance of power between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but imbalance in itself is not immoral. Does being stronger bear certain responsibilities? Sure, I guess. I don't know. I've never been personally stronger than anyone, but so I hear. But does it automatically mean you're at fault? Of course not. It almost sounds like you're mad at us for not taking more casualties.
Look, it is true that militants from Palestinian groups like Hamas fired over 1,000 rockets towards Israel this week, and that is reprehensible. But, and I realize this is the most load-bearing conjunction in history, but the majority of those rockets thankfully didn't reach their target for a very clear reason. There is a massive imbalance when it comes to the two sides' weaponry and capabilities. While most of the rockets aimed toward Israeli citizens this week were intercepted, Israel's airstrikes were not.
Let me get this straight. Hamas fired over 1,000 missiles at civilians, but they don't count because we stopped them in mid-air? That doesn't make any sense. That's like me going to a nursing home and injecting every elder with a live COVID sample, and the nurses go like, well, they are vaccinated, so I guess that's cool. You only got a really small number of them. Doesn't the intent matter at all? Because, and I know I sound like an Israeli abroad trying to get laid, but we do have to address the fact that Hamas targets civilians almost exclusively, while the IDF makes an effort to avoid it. And I actually agree with your criticism of the times in which the IDF doesn't do enough. I too think that taking down civilian buildings is an extreme measure and should only be used as a last resort, which is pretty fucking hard considering how deeply Hamas is rooted in everyday Palestinian lives in Gaza.
And it's important to note here The vast majority of the Palestinians in Gaza are not part of Hamas. They don't get together and all decide to launch rockets. It's not a fucking co-op board. But when Israel fires rockets at Gaza, it endangers all Palestinians there.
Yes, that is of course correct. Only that unfortunately, we can't change the regime in Gaza. We can't even change the regime in Israel, and we've had like 20 elections in 1 year. This guy really can't take the hint. But the point remains that like every dictatorship and every terrorist group, Hamas feeds off of its citizens and uses them as protection. And by no means does that free Israel from responsibility. No, but it does provide context, much needed context, to examine the conflict through. As someone who follows American politics, I sometimes get the feeling that the two sides of every argument are the one side that automatically supports the weak and the other side that automatically supports the strong. But sometimes the reality is more complex. Claiming that imbalance is immoral is the privilege of those who don't need to make the choice between their own safety and their care for others. We can't be weak, but we can't also be callous. And that is why I made this monologue, to say the word callous. Not in defense of Israel or in defense of war. Fuck war. It is because it pained me to see a personal hero of mine saying something as unfair, unjust, as simplistic as I expect oral sex but won't return the favor. Thank you. May we all live in peace soon.